The Community Consolidated School District 46 Board of Education meeting for Wednesday, May 4th, 2022. We are here at Frederick School in Grays Lake. First, I need a call to order and a roll call, please.
Weedman.
Here.
Mack.
Here.
Braden.
Here.
Albert.
Here.
LaCroix.
Here.
Miller.
Here.
And Nash.
Here. Okay, that gives us a quorum. So if we could all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, thank you. Next, I need a motion to approve tonight's agenda, including the personnel addendum that we got earlier today.
So moved.
Second.
Miller.
Aye.
Mack.
Aye.
Albert.
Aye.
Weedman.
Aye.
Braden.
Aye.
LaCroix.
Aye.
And Nash.
Aye.
Okay, next is open for public comments. Do we have anybody signed up?
Yes, Miss Michelle Cooney.
Okay.
Now, okay, yeah. Okay. Hi, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. I'm Michelle Cunney, and I'm here to defend parents' rights to direct the education of their children. These are legal rights upheld by 5 Supreme Court decisions. The only thing new about parents' rights today is a seemingly coordinated effort playing out in the headlines to take over and to undermine the role of family within our communities. Parents' rights in education strives for the return of community values properly represented and reflected in school policies, without the current trend of coercion and reprisal as we voice our concerns. Public school boards were created to reflect the values of their community, and to defend and represent the people. Their role is to provide a bridge between policymakers and tax-paying stakeholders, not to put up barriers. I represent parents' rights in education. We are committed to valuing students, empowering parents, and supporting communities to secure education, or to secure a great education for public school children in America. We invite District 46 and all Illinois parents and community members to stand with us. Attend your school board meetings. Voice your opinion and take part in electing school board directors who share all our values. We welcome students, families, and community members who care about scholastic success for K-12 education. Families are the most important stakeholders, and parents' voices do matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Got one more.
Yes, Miss Gill.
If you could just state your name so everybody can hear it.
Oh, sure. Good evening. Sally Gill. I want to thank you for everything you're doing for our community and our children. And just to bring awareness, since our last meeting, there have been some developments with our local community, and I feel the need to speak out again, not just in support of our school boards and educators, but also to bring an urgent awareness. There can now be no doubt that the national conversation about education and its influence on the current culture wars of our time has come to our community. Many of us have taken for granted what we have in our school boards and educators, and now is the time, more than ever, to stand up and support you. Some weeks ago, we were made aware of an event at a local bar and a so-called expert guest speaker asking parents to attend, and learned what he claimed is really going on in our local schools and educational curriculums. The information was circulated by some notable people in our community, and it sounded harmless at first. And then I noticed the name of the so-called expert speaker and the platform, and I decided to do some digging. What I learned is extremely disturbing. A platform of someone claiming to be an expert in what is really being taught in our children in local schools. A social media feed of slides and information disguised as truth that can only be described as nothing less than fear-mongering and lies. There is no doubt that protecting our children is every single parent's instinct and right. So it is often easy to manipulate that, exploit it, and weaponize it, and that is exactly what this platform mentioned is doing. I cannot explain why anyone would believe such a false narrative, but here we are. These lies accuse our educational boards and our teachers of indoctrinating and grooming our children. Nothing could be further from the truth. Additionally, this platform recently called for educators inside our schools to provide him with information and internal data and curriculum information so that he can use it and weaponize it against our educators. I know from experience that it is not productive to engage or argue with these folks. And it must be said that people who jump on this narrative that demonizes education have absolutely no business on our local school boards. I want our current school board and teachers to know that this community supports and appreciates you all wholeheartedly. The work that you do in creating school environments that include, educate, and validate all our children is critical. I want to tell you that we will continue to support you in every way we can, and we will not be silent. I ask our community, please hear me. We have local elections coming up that will affect the makeup of our school board and how our teachers are supported and our children are nurtured. We have a choice: to believe lies that demonize, dehumanize, and hurt our school board's educators and our children, or to stay informed and prepare now to protect the institutions in our communities that we say we hold dear. Please do not sit back. Please be alert. The truth is, what we have now is a superintendent, a board, and educators who care deeply about our children, and we must protect it fiercely. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's the end of public comments. Next, we are up to our presentations. First presentation is the new district branding.
Okay, we have a couple of people who are going to stand up. I'm going to do my part from here so that the real stars of the show are up front. That means both of you go over towards the mic. All right. Well, good evening, everyone. We are very, very excited tonight. Now, I recognize it is slightly anticlimactic because we are sharing our brand new logo for the first time. It's a big reveal. We kind of really wanted to do the big reveal during the presentation, but we couldn't figure out a way for us to all gracefully put on t-shirts in the middle of a board meetings. So you can kind of sort of see what the new logo is, but our presentation is about quite a few different things having to do with branding. If I can have the next slide, there we go. So as we know, our mission is empowering learners, creating equity, and cultivating community. And before we move past this slide, I simply want to point out to the board that even this slide looks different from what you've been looking at all year, because part of our new branding is a whole new slide deck that Leslie Armstrong has made for us. And so this is your first view of that. But everything that we're going to be talking about tonight about our new branding is related to this mission. Next slide, please. As you know, Last spring, we worked very hard on a new strategic plan, and one of our goals was a communication goal. We committed to review, expand, and clarify communication methods to provide consistency and transparency with stakeholders and establish a CCSD 46 brand that supports the mission, vision, and values of the district. And the plans for this year included the design of a new district logo and planning for the new website. Now, before we move past this slide, I simply want to mention, as I hand this over to my colleagues, you really do need to know, board, that this work has been a labor of love. Chris Vipond, our Director of Technology, and Leslie Armstrong, our webmaster and communications specialist, public relations specialist, have worked so very hard on this. And in fact, the logo that you're looking at was in fact created by Mrs. Armstrong. So I feel like yes, I see someone going like this. We can actually do that. We can actually clap for sure. And if you get a chance to talk to Leslie later, you're going to see she's actually wearing a new necklace with a logo on it. Just saying. I'm going to hand this over to the two of you. Please take it away.
All right, everyone. I've been with the district 17 years, and I wanted to just speak to a couple of these slides, mainly this one, because this logo and the little people have been near and dear to my heart for all those 17 years. I've done a lot of work with the graphics, with the website. That's been my passion to do, and I just really wanted to, give the little people their due and their time on screen before we say goodbye. And as we say goodbye, we're moving on into the future of the new logo. And I just wanted to read some of the thoughts that, as I was doing this, as we were coming together, actually, a lot of this was fed from one of the comments that we received on one of the surveys, and it was really put into words so much better than I think I could have done, so I've borrowed some of her words. But I wanted to say what the story, why this logo, and why the aspects of the logo we're using. And basically, that branding is more than just a logo. A brand is about defining the story that each person in the district and the larger community play a role in telling each day. The new logo encompasses the spirit in which this district is moving. We are rooted in our community, with each leaf of the tree representing one of the 7 communities we serve, those being Grays Lake, Haynesville, Lake Villa, Round Lake Beach, Round Lake Park, and Third Lake. The figure in the tree represents the welcoming open arms of our school community. This logo mark as a total reminds us to be joyful, kind, and embrace the wonder of learning set amongst the unique natural beauty of our Lake County landscape.
So I'd like to share a little bit about how we got to this logo and how we got where we are today. We, of course, started with a community survey that went to all of our stakeholders, our staff, and our entire community. Some of you likely remember that survey. From there, we narrowed it down and kind of focused things a little bit more and shared another survey with our strategic planning stakeholder team. That survey, again, helped us narrow things down, helped guide the design process a little bit more, and then we narrowed it down to a final 3 logo options. You can see the screenshot there was that survey of the final 3. We've blurred out the other 2, but our top choice being the one that we have today. And so I just want to share a little bit of feedback that came from those surveys and from that final survey especially. I'll just call out a couple of these. The first one is perfect. It shows children growing and spreading their wings like branches. I really like the leaf idea, and with the meaning of 7 of them, it really represents the whole district. And again, just the tree with the person symbolizes the growth and branching out that our students will experience while in District 46. So that's the feedback that we again received from our stakeholder group from the strategic planning team. So As we keep going, we'll talk about kind of the next steps with the logo and with the branding. We will have posted on our website within probably the next couple of days. By Friday, we'll have a comprehensive district branding guide. And this branding guide will detail proper logo usage, district brand colors, preferred typography, naming conventions, and graphic and template downloadable files. All of this is so that we stay consistent and stay true to our new brand and our new identity now. So having that guide publicly available, we'll all, as community, as a district, be able to stay true to our brand moving forward. And so that's exciting for us as a district, but just as exciting is the fact that this same process, and slightly tweaked, is happening for our schools also. So each of our schools, each of our students back in December had an opportunity to vote for a new school logo or image for their mascot. So their mascot itself is staying the same. The falcon is staying a falcon. It'll just have a refreshed look to it. And again, the students all voted on a sketch, and then those have since been turned into full-blown color images, and the students and principals are anxiously awaiting for those being released. It should be within the next 2 weeks or so. So by the end of this year, for sure, we'll be releasing those to the schools. But then they will also have a full comprehensive branding guide to, again, continue to stay consistent to that logo. So now anytime there's spirit wear with the falcon on it, it's going to be the consistent falcon. And that brand will help brand our schools, help brand our district. And really, again, just, I've said it, but continuing to hit home that consistency piece. As we keep moving forward, I've talked briefly about next steps. We've kind of joked, and I've used the analogy that this will be an ongoing kind of rolling transition to our new logo. Of course, the previous logo is across the district in hundreds of different places, and while it would be nice to be able to refresh all of those tonight or tomorrow, we're not able to do that. So it'll be an ongoing process. You will see social media profiles start to change probably as soon as Leslie sits back down. She's prepared to start changing those over tonight, and so that'll be one of the first places that you'll see them. You'll see also later this week, we'll be sharing out an online store that has all sorts of swag and spirit wear with the new logo on it for purchase from the community. We're also excited for print and online graphics to continue to get changed over with the new logo. And again, kind of on an ongoing rolling basis. Strategic plan posters, we have that planned for this fall, and really just kind of summarizing and highlighting the strategic plan efforts across the district and having those posters with the new logo and posted across our district. We also will continue working on signage across the district and out front of the district office and at all of our schools. You see the artist rendering of the sign outside of the district office right now. If you drive past it tonight, it does not have the new logo on it yet, but we will get there. I also want to share a brief update about our new website. And you know that we've been working on the website. There has been a lot of design discussions with our vendor and all sorts of planning going into the website. We are now in the production phase. So the vendor has all of our feedback. You see just a quick snapshot of our new homepage there. I'm excited this summer or early August to be able to give a full tour of the entire new website. But right now, just a little teaser. But that is still in production. This summer, hopefully early June, we'll get access to it and we'll be able to start migrating content to it. And that's really where the bulk of our work and our internal work is going to come in when we start migrating content. So that'll be a very laborious process that'll be happening throughout the summer. We are hoping for a early to mid-August launch if everything stays on schedule with the new website. And of course, the new website will contain and represent, as you see in the screenshot there, our new district logo, and then each of the school sites is also getting refreshed and will have all of their new mascots and colors on it as well. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have about our branding process.
I don't necessarily have a question, but a thank you for both of you for all your work and especially Leslie on the logo. It was a job well done, and thank you again.
I'd like to echo those sentiments from Mr. Wheatman. So thank you both. Nice job. And thank you, a broader thank you to the community for leaning in and providing a lot of feedback to help us get to this point. I do have a question with regards to external stakeholder engagement. So have we, or is there a plan to coordinate like with the library or the park district just to make sure that, you know, they have the updated branding and such, so when it's on display in the library as an example, or when you go to the park district, that we have that continuity around the community as well?
Yes, and so as we, and kind of talking about the rolling basis, Leslie has actually shared with the number on our tech team for sure, and then the sharing with our administrators that as we continue to see the logo in hidden places across the community, that she wants to hear about it, so that we can make sure that we are refreshing it on an ongoing basis. But then the posting and publishing of that branding guide is going to be important to us, that, to your point, that our community knows that this is us now, and if our logo is being used, this is how we want it to be used, to stay true to it.
Good deal. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, next up is our safety and security update.
Hey, look at those new slides. It's almost like they knew.
Now that the sun goes down, I can see it.
Good evening, Board of Education. This is the first Safety and Security Committee SSC update that we're giving to you. You might recall, excuse me, that we told you first that the committee had been formed back in December, and when we were at GMS, you said, can you please come back and give us an update? And so we're here to give that first update to you. All right, we talked about the mission. There's two things that I wanted to highlight here. Empowering learners, creating equity, cultivating community. Empowering is a big part of safety and security, and it's definitely something that we think about when we talk about active shooter and we talk about the situational awareness training that we're going to be bringing a recommendation for you, hopefully on May 18th, and cultivating community. A big part of the Safety and Security Committee is to get together and actually create a community, cultivate a community of and culture of safety. So that is the big thing that we've been talking about, and we're going to kind of talk about some of those things, how we sow the seeds of that. So we're governed by board policies. Two specifically, we have safety, board policy 4:170. It's very explicit. It talks about safety and security, about what we need to do as a school district. It also talks about our school safety drill plan, which is an annual thing that we have to do at all our buildings. And we talk about the annual review that we have to do with our partners, which we'll talk about in the next slide. And then we have our targeted school violence program, which is board policy 4:190, which is the threat assessment teams, which my colleague, Ms. Lorenzo, will talk about very soon. So who's a member of the committee? So we have the district administration, we have everyone here, the whole team. We have building administration, we have several of them. I don't know if everyone's here. Nope, maybe not. We have Barbara Zaris, we have Mr. Malamed, and we have David Dunsmore. We have certified staff, and we have members of the PSRP as well. And most importantly, we have members of the police departments. So they're all actual standing members. They come to the committee, and they're able to give input directly to the agenda items that we discuss. Some of the things that we started with, and these are kind of some of the goals: strengthening the consistency and safety and security procedures in each school throughout the district, researching and analyzing best practice and methodology in safety and security. We want to be able to bring things to you that make sense. These shouldn't be things which we're just bringing to you that don't have a tried and tested methodology. They need to be things that are hopefully going to fulfill the goals. Updating our standard operating procedures in each event scenario. That's a big part of what we're doing at the building level. making informed decisions and implementing recommendations. Just to say that the committee has met 3 times. So after that first meeting in December, what we told you back at GMS, we met in March, on March 8th, and then we met again on April 19th. So a big part of the committee is building partnerships with our governmental partners. So one of the first things we did when we brought the intergovernmental agreement to you, which was board approved, with Grays Lake Park District. One of the things when we sat down with them, we said, hey, we have all these things that we do together, and our kids are your kids. This is the same family, same community. Clarification of roles and responsibilities. So having that relationship with them on an intergovernmental agreement makes it much easier for us to be able to call them and have that relationship already with the administrations of the Park District and also the administration of CCSD 46. We also visited all the police departments, which was fun. As an ex-police officer, I got to visit them all. Grays Lake, Round Lake, and Round Lake Beach. So we got to visit the police departments, to actually visit the chief, sit down with them, and say to them, hey, we're reconvening this committee. It's really important to us that you send a representative, and the representatives do come to the actual meetings. We also attended, as a group, the Lake County Regional Office of Education Safety Conference that was on March 7th. There was lots and lots and lots of different things that we could see, but these were some of the groups and the actual presentations that we took part in, and we brought this back to the committee. So the first one was identifying and intercepting school shooters through leakage. That's an FBI program. Identifying school safety using a threat assessment model, reporting mechanisms, which is Safe to Help, which is a ISB-approved reporting method for students for safety. We also saw a lot of information and saw another presentation from the FBI about human trafficking, which is prevalent in Lake County. So it was very interesting to hear about that. And we also saw another final presentation, which was defining the role of school resource officers, which is a continuing discussion that we have in the committee and is still under evaluation. And I'm going to pass it to one of my colleagues who's going to continue.
Thank you, Mr. Wildman. Good evening, board. As Mr. Wildman was speaking about, the updates that we have done throughout the district, as we have talked about in the past, is we have gone ahead and implemented a key card system throughout. And given the fact with the key cards, one of the keys to it is being able to lock down the system from a one-button touch. Along with that, we know who enters the building at any given time. We are also bringing to board tonight, as we have spoke about in the past, the implementation of a district-wide two-way radio system. Within that radio system, we will be able to communicate with the local police departments. No. Later on tonight, you will also hear about from Mr. Vipon the upgrading of the security system throughout the district, starting with the most needed school at the moment, which would happen to be GMS. But the camera system we will be able to see district-wide throughout. Myself and Mr. Vipon have worked hard at talking with all the principals, seeing the needs, walking through the schools. Mr. Vipon has worked even harder with all of our contractors getting the right camera system for us. As Mr. Wildman had spoke about with the SROs, another one of the conversations was the difference between the SROs and the deans. Which way would we like to go with it? It has been agreed upon at the moment that the deans are the way that we would like to go. So currently, there is out there positions open for us for the 3 FTEs for new deans for inside the school. Sorry. Along with it, we are updating our visitor management system. Currently, we have Raptor. We are sticking with Raptor. There is a new program that comes with it. With the visitor management system, as somebody will walk into the school, they hand over their driver's license, their state ID. It runs through the system, and it checks their background, their criminal background, It looks for sexual predators, anything that may strike a red flag to stop them before they enter our building. Also, we are currently updating our crisis process and our standard operating procedures throughout the district. One of the people that was not mentioned in this, Ms. Katie O'Brien, she has been diligently helping, talking with, she's over there right now. Thank you, Katie. She has been working with the principals, getting feedback from them as to what their operating procedures are so that we can standardize it across the district from one school to the next. Obviously, we know that every school is different as to how it operates or how each office is in conjunction with the schools. But our plan is to be able to uniform them across the district as much as possible. With that, I am going to pass this over now to Ms. Lorenzo.
Thanks. Good evening. Effective August of 2019, each district in the state of Illinois has been required to develop a district-wide threat assessment committee. We have done so, and our original threat assessment committee adopted a set of procedures called our student safety and threat assessment procedures in November of 2019. We are also required to review this set of procedures annually as a district threat assessment committee. Our committee is comprised of a social worker, a psychologist, an administrator, and our local authorities. And in this year's meeting, we had our Grays Lake representative and our Round Lake representative. Additionally, we have a school counselor from the high school and a general education teacher. So we look at our data, we take a look at the procedures and evaluate whether our processes work. Our processes are developed to not only sort through once we have an identified or reported threat of safety to a student, another student, or self, and then guide that decision maker in determining the level of severity of the threat and then the appropriate matching intervention for the students. Additionally, the packet that you have is linked into our memo in your board packet, and that's the revised packet from April 11th or April 16th of last month. So we're very proud that we feel that our processes are working for our district, and we're excited to have that reviewed and in place for next year as well.
Okay, so we're going to talk about some of the ongoing conversations, and we did speak a little bit about SROs, so I'm going to kind of skip that. But one of our biggest charges that we had as a committee was to view and analyze different type of situational awareness programs and strategies that are offered to school districts. I will come back and speak about all of those four, but I wanted to explain what situational awareness is first. And basically, it is to be cognizant of what is going on in our situation or in our area, what's happening. Mr. Halpern is one of the best reminders of us, because he'll be like, do you know how to get out? What would you do if this entrance was blocked? How would you leave? Do you know where the map is? Does this building have like EpiPens? And so he's constantly making sure that we in the committee are very cognizant of our surroundings. So that's one aspect of what situational training is. But the other is really a critical resource of, oh my goodness, there's an active shooter in the school. We all need to survive, but we also need to protect our students and protect each other. What do we do? And how do we go about that in the safest, quickest, most responsible manner, right? And so in order to do that, we looked at a couple of different, we found all of, it was an extensive search of different types of situational awareness trainings that were happening in various schools across the country. We started with our original, which is what do we do right now? We have a traditional lockdown. If there is a threat in the school, we close and lock the door, we block the windows, and we hide in a corner or the bathroom or somewhere, and we just sort of are quiet as possible so it looks like there isn't anyone in there. we did a lot of research with data and found out that that really isn't the best way or the best way we can respond in every situation. Again, we have to analyze what's happening around us. In some cases, hiding and being very quiet is perfect. In other cases, that's not the best option. So we have moved away from our traditional lockdown that you will always do this because it might not always be the best. We looked into run, hide, and fight, and it is very self-explanatory. You either run, you can hide, or you can fight, and this is different than counter, but this is really like fighting back, saving, trying to save, hurt the person so you can be okay. It is an abridged version of Alice. And then Alice is the most comprehensive and probably most well-known. It's a federally backed program. It's actually the wife's name. She's a teacher and her husband is a police officer, and they created this because of school lockdown situations, and he turned the acronym into her name, and so it's a tribute, I guess. And then I Love You Guys. I Love You Guys is an organization that is put and born out of tragedy. A lot of different moms and parents who have really undergone some significant tragedies from school shooters, different types of things. And what we liked about this resource, or this program, is that they offer a lot of resources. There's a lot of very authentic data, there's a lot of articles, but in terms of a comprehensive program, that was not our best recommendation. So after we've talked about all this with the committee, we went through back and forth different types of things. We have decided, or we would like to recommend, oh my goodness, we would like to recommend Alice as our situational awareness training. As the administration part of the committee, we did get to meet with Alice, an Alice representative, and kind of talk through a bunch of different things. So we will come back as a committee in May 18th to really do a formal and full deep dive into what Alice stands for, what does it look like, why it would be the recommendation, and then ask for your approval on that. We are also going to do everything that everyone just spoke about with complete summer projects. We are continuing with our evaluation of school resource officers. We will have our annual safety and security meeting before the end of the school year to be in compliance with the board policy, and then continue our threat assessment work. And then, of course, we're going to continue to do district-wide internal audits through an equity lens, just try to figure out what needs for safety and security happen are in each building specifically, because each building is different. And the reason it says assessment tools filtered through equity lens, an example of that would be to not just have written instructions in English on how to exit a room, but to also have a map with arrows, because not all of our students speak 100, not all of our students can be in an emergency situation and be like, oh my goodness, that's in English, how do I get out? But if we all had a map, it would be okay, right? And instead of putting directions in 9 different languages, right? Just kind of, that's an example. All right. Do you have questions for us? Yes?
I actually have a couple questions. The first one is about the systems, the technology systems that will be purchased as part of this work. If you could just remind me, the radios, the security cameras, the key card system, was that all contemplated in the strategic master facilities plan?
It was. It absolutely was. That was all part of our strategic plan to begin with. That was rolled out through our budgeting within it.
Okay. And then my second question has to do with, I hear my kids come home and talk about active shooter drills that they went through, and clearly, I mean, it's a shame, but we need to train the kids on what to do in a situation like that. How do you guys think about balancing the emotional health of going through something like that with the need for them to know what to do?
You know, it's kind of tricky because we obviously don't want to overexpose our children to what could happen, but the consequences of not having a set of response systems is often tragic for a lot of students. So I think the more we teach our students some options in any environment, the more accustomed to being able to make decisions, I think the better they will respond to that as students. I mean, we do always have some students who are a little more anxious or nervous about these scenarios, and we have opportunities to intervene in a different way or to teach in a different way, although we do have some limitations by law and removing students from practice. But I think we're cognizant of those kiddos and that communication with our families so we can provide that support when we need to. Does that answer your question?
It does, and you know, I'm just ripping some things out of the headlines. You hear about some active school shooter situations where they actually simulate the sound of gunfire.
Right.
I know that doesn't happen here, I know it, but it got me thinking, you know, how do you actually prepare them without traumatizing them?
Well, and we're going to talk a lot in our next board presentation about the background and some of the considerations in the data and the research that we have from previous active shooter instances. And we want to create a situation where kiddos are being cognizant of their surroundings in any environment within a school. But we also want to be sensitive to not creating alarm for our kiddos.
Christy?
I have a couple questions about the security cameras, and I'm just curious I have 3 questions. How will the footage be used on a regular basis? And then are there staff members that will have responsibilities for monitoring the footage? And what kind of security is in place to make sure that that footage stays in the district and isn't available to anyone we don't want to have it?
I'm actually, excuse me, I'm going to do the thing that we don't really like when people do. I'm going to ask that we wait just a little bit longer because I actually have a full presentation about the security cameras coming up shortly. And if I don't address those questions in the presentation, remind me, and I will at the end. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Chris.
The other Christy?
I only have one, question. I know we talked a little bit about the role of the dean, and would be interested when you get a chance in kind of where that role description ends up, so we can understand kind of what role that'll play. Not anything that needs to be presented right now, but just would love to review that. If you have already sent it, I apologize.
The job description?
Yeah, if you think that's the most helpful way to understand kind of what their key responsibilities will be. Awesome. All right, or I can go, if it's posted, I can go get it. Thank you. Oh. Got it.
And to add to that, I've been having conversations with our building leaders about keeping them connected with our mental health committee work, with our social workers and our psychologists. So it's one cohesive, seamless process from any incident to the result.
I have a clarifying question in terms of the analysis that was done. In the presentation, you talked about looking at SROs versus the deans. I'm just curious as to what was the process of analysis to land on 3 deans as opposed to SROs or a hybrid of both?
So that was the second meeting we had, when we had 2 police officers from 2 of the different departments there, and both of them representing Grayslake and Round Lake advocated for an SRO role. What they stated was, their reasoning was that they have an SRO at the high school, and it works very well. The lens of student discipline and some of the other reasons that we've gone for a dean position doesn't preclude the evaluation of this. So the dean positions have been posted, they're being hired. We're going to continue to evaluate the role of an SRO through the lens of the Safety and Security Committee. So hope that makes sense. So that the dean's positions have already moved forward, they're posted, we're going ahead with them. We're going to continue to talk from a safety and security perspective about the purpose of an SRO.
Okay, thanks, that helps.
Chris, I want to just jump in for a moment. I'm thinking about your question, Tamika, and Christy's question as well. And I just wanted to clarify that as we talked, and I'm not on the committee, but we talked a lot. As we talked about the SRO option and the dean option, we recognize that the work is very different. So our deans, well, our current dean, and in the future, our deans work kind of longitudinally with our students to help them make good decisions, to support their choices, and then to address issues as they come along. An SRO most likely does not do most of those things. They will not do a lot of the smaller investigations that we have to do on a very regular basis about the kinds of things that happen between children. So what we recognized is although we have not come to consensus as yet as to whether an SRO or SROs would serve our community, we felt very strongly that adding deans would.
Anybody else have any other questions? No?
Thank you. We will be coming back on May 18th with a recommendation for Alice. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is board reports. If I could just start off, this is Teacher Appreciation Week, so I wanted to make sure we recognize that for all of our teachers and staff, and say thank you for another successful year, almost done. As he said, he's got 14 days left. So, but thank you for all your work. Anybody else?
I have a series of thank yous for some key volunteers. We had some things to celebrate on the Community Engagement Committee. So I want to shout out to Mark Tiplin. He has worked for about 4 years to create a joint PTO between Frederick and GMS, and with all kinds of support from other folks, that's becoming a reality. So I know you saw that in our weekly update, but just want to acknowledge his diligence in this. So thank you to him. Also, Kaylee Lemke has worked for 2 years on what first we talked about as the dine and share. When COVID started, we really wanted to support our local businesses and make sure that we weren't duplicating fundraising efforts. Kaylee, behind the scenes, created a system to make sure that those restaurants are approached and that the scheduling is coordinated to offset some of that burden. At the same time, now it's called School Night Out, generated about $6,000 for local schools, for all of our 7 schools, and I think a testament to how well she has worked with the restaurants is that they have signed up again for next year before we've even approached them. So they've reached out to her already. So thank you to Kaylee. Also wanted to thank several staff and custodians who supported the Student Environmental Council, conducted a waste audit at GMS. So I'm going to read them, and Adam, maybe you can help me with last names. Thank you. Beth McGowan, Ed, is it Lochelt? Lochelt. Kyle Bandy, Clayton Stockman, John Anderson, and Adam. They all supported the kids as they weighed the trash, the recycling, and the compost at GMS. And I don't want to steal their thunder because next week they're going to share it with you, but they worked with District 127. There's a jack pallet weight that was kind of, they were pretty excited to use. So I'll let them share that with you next week. But thank you to those custodians and for that help. And then that brings me to the Student Environmental Council. They will present to us May 18th, so our next meeting. They are going to share the ARC score that they came up with, which is a baseline in 5 categories: energy, waste, water, transportation, and the human experience. And I happen to live with one of those kids who was over the moon excited that they have reached all of the survey responses and such that they can get accurate scores for all 4 of the buildings that they've been working on, one of which is GMS. So thank you for your support in this. They are a little nervous about coming, and I assured them that every single person around this table would be cheering them on and very definitely for them as we listen to them next week. So excited to see them strut their stuff next week. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay.
Hello. I was able to attend quite a few meetings during Earth Week that allowed me to connect with a variety of people, including younger former D46 students now in their 20s, older citizens without children in the district anymore, and retired citizens. And it reminded me that there are many stakeholders beyond current parents who have a say in what kind of citizens public schools graduate. I just wanted to kind of reiterate what one of the public comments said earlier too. One of the meetings that I attended was the Green Lake County Forum, and the Student Environmental Council did a really nice job presenting there, so kudos to them. And part of that meeting, this was one of those meetings with a lot of different stakeholders. There was a lot of talk of partnership and wanting to partner across lots of organizations and schools, which we are doing. Just want to encourage even more cultivating community in that way. The watershed game had to be canceled due to lightning, ironically. But we are looking forward to partnering with the Lake County Forest Preserves Foundation to hopefully do that in June. And then let's see, last thing I might want to say, I want to thank volunteers and the Girl Scout troops, 46008 and 47163. These are third graders and second graders for active stewardship in the outdoor classroom in Woodland behind Meadowview. It was really lovely. It was on a Saturday. I turned the corner and it was just a buzz with all these families and students, and it was just so heartwarming. And one of the beautiful things that came out of that is I got to meet a future kindergartner, and her mother had brought her, I think she found out about it, found out about the day, and decided to bring her child to meet people she'll be going to school with. And so it's opportunities like that that cultivate community, and I thank the volunteers who coordinated that, and I appreciate that kind of activity. Just wanted to say that. Oh, I forgot. Sorry, I feel like I'm rambling. Foundation 46 has some exciting awards that they will be, well, they'll be giving some grants soon, and they do impact grants and project grants, and just a reminder that teachers and staff can submit grant requests in the spring and the fall, and it will be exciting to see what grants have been awarded soon. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else?
Just quickly, in addition to recognizing our teachers for Teacher Appreciation Week, we'd be remiss if we didn't acknowledge our very own Sue Walker for Administrative Professionals Day that was last week. So thank you, Sue, for everything that you do.
All right, we're up to Dr. Glickman.
All right, Superintendent's report. I want to start by welcoming some members of our community today. It looks like we have some students from, is it Grace Lake North or Central? Where are you all from? Central? Well, welcome. We hope you are enjoying the meeting, and we hope that you will hang out to the end if you have the time, because there's going to be cake. Just saying. That leads me to, again, thanking Mr. Vipond and Ms. Armstrong for their very hard work on our website, on our new logo, and we will be at the end of this meeting celebrating with cake with our new logo on it. Thank you so much to Sue Walker for arranging for that. It looks pretty good on the cake, so thank you. We have another special guest with us today to do a brief presentation, and that is Lisa West, who is here from the Illinois Principals Association. She's here to recognize Mr. Eric Detweiler, the principal right here at Frederick School, because Eric has been named the Herman Graves Award winner for outstanding service to the Illinois Principals Association. So please, take it away, Lisa.
Thanks. He didn't know either. That makes me feel better. Good evening, Grace Lake 46 School Board and Superintendent. I am Lisa West. I am the Region Director-elect for the Lake County, Illinois Principals Association, and I have the distinct honor of presenting to Eric the highest award that the Illinois Principals Association gives one of their members. The Herman Graves Award is actually given to those who not only are vital within our organization and the input and the things that they do, and the membership, but also someone who is vital to their school community. And I can speak from my experience with Eric that he has wore many hats at the IPA for Lake County. He is currently our state region director, and just had a meeting with him this morning. And he keeps us all in tune with what is important for our leadership within our schools. And so it is my great honor that I request that you join with me to celebrate, congratulate, and acknowledge Eric Detweiler as the Herman Graves Award Lake Region Award winner for 2022.
Thank you, and I just want to thank the board and all of our administrators, Lynn. These types of organizations are vital for all of our growth. I know Lynn is part of the superintendent's one, or Chris is part of the business one, or those types of things. And so I appreciate the board's support in our growth as we try to work with the state and across the country for this position. So thank you for your support, and thank you, Lisa, for this. Thank you.
Lisa, you're welcome to stay for cake, but we'll understand if you have to go. Okay. Speaking of award ceremonies, I wanted to share that as we are speaking, Mrs. Mary Murphy, our dean at GMS, is over at the Lake County Educator of the Year dinner and ceremony, along with her husband and also her principal, Mr. Marcus Smith, because Mrs. Murphy was nominated as a Lake County Educator of the Year. And I think that speaks to exactly what we were talking about before. I swear I didn't plan this, but the importance of having deans. We're really thrilled that Mary was nominated in that way and glad that she's being honored. So that's the news about Mary. Also, speaking of things to celebrate, just today I had the opportunity to go over to GMS to listen to the second to final rehearsal of the GMS Wind Ensemble prior to them going to University of Illinois on Friday to compete at Super State. And I know that you, Mr. Lewis, were able to do that earlier in the week. They are absolutely spectacular, and they are playing some very challenging music. I was very impressed by that. So more to come to hear what happens with Super State, but however it turns out, we will be very, very proud of our students. I'm going to hand this over to Dr. Diaz to talk about some collaboration with District 127, then to Mr. Lewis to talk about the Equity and Inclusion Committee meeting we recently had, and then I have a few more things to wrap up. Dr. Diaz?
Thanks. I just wanted to briefly acknowledge the fact that we were able to host District 127 on Monday. They came with their dual language and bilingual team, and they toured our 5th through 8th grade EL and bilingual classes, and they were so impressed with the rigor, the level of language that our students were able to use in both English and Spanish, and how fast they went in and out of it. And I'm excited for our partnership because they have shared the awesome news that they are starting two-way dual language next year, and they will be ready for our students who are going to be 7th grade to 8th there. They will be able to continue the same programming to have history and Spanish language arts in Spanish with a two-way dual program. It's very exciting.
So thank you. I wanted to just share a little bit about our last equity and inclusion meeting. We held that on April 25th, and I'm not saying the last one of the year, just our most recent one. We did welcome 2 new members who pursued participation, so we're thrilled about 2 new members. We had a really great presentation by Heather Lorenzo. By request of the committee, she gave a really thorough presentation about the special education services and the continuum of services provided across the district. And so that helped answer a lot of questions of the committee. So that was very helpful. And we're continuing with our book study. Our book study that we've chosen to work on this year has caused us a lot of conversation. And so we're going to get through it before the end of the year, but the conversations have been super rich and really eye-opening and really impactful conversations for the committee, and so we appreciate that. So we have one more meeting this year. It's on May 23rd, and that will be the last one for the school year. And we are going to get through chapters 5 and 6 of the book because we have that as a plan, and that's the end of the book, but that is also really good news. And I think I was talking about one more topic.
I think so too.
And so the other big news is that we are very, very excited to come to the May 18th meeting because we have a recommendation for K-8 literacy materials. You know that we've been working on that and super excited. It's been a labor of love and unbelievable work with the committee, but we were able to make a final decision last night. So we were here late working on it, but we do have recommendations for K-8 coming to the school board on May 18th. So just exciting, not sharing yet, but it's you'll have to wait and hear, but it's really going to be impactful for our students. It's going to be really good stuff. So.
Are we doing T-shirts next time too?
I did hear that we needed to have tour T-shirts,
Just
but
asking. We're excited. Yeah,
Cake,
and a cake,
okay.
and a cake. All right. Board, thank you very much for acknowledging staff appreciation. I join you in enormous appreciation for our teachers and all of our staff, and wanted to mention that today some treats went out to our staff on behalf of the board and administration. Tomorrow, our staff will be getting a little bit of new CCSD 46 logo swag. So we're really excited to be presenting that to them. And oh, I see a teacher excited to get it. So thank you, and Leslie, thank you for helping to put that together. Let me say that again. Thank you for putting it together. You didn't help. Thanks for putting it together.
Lynn, may I interrupt you just for a moment?
Yeah, sure.
Sorry, I just wanted to jump in before we're too far past the equity. We had the community engagement meeting yesterday, and one of the equity committee members was extremely effusive, and I meant to share this in my board report, but she could not stop talking about how much she has learned from the equity committee, specifically from Dr. Glickman and from Paul Lewis. So wanted to thank you for that, as long as we're talking about teacher appreciation and staff appreciation. So
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you to Sue Walker. We were so glad to honor you last week through professional administration. I can't say it. Thanks, Sue. You're awesome. I can't say it tonight. And my last comment is, board, I wanted just to make you aware of some work that your cabinet is doing. So we're working really hard right now on walking ourselves through the planned work for this year regarding our strategic plan, making sure that we've crossed all I's and dotted all T's, and then tightening up the work for next year. So as you will remember, at the very beginning of this year, we provided you with some maps that showed what we were planning to do this year, what we are planning to do next year, and what's beyond that. So now we're tightening those up to see what needs to be revised, and likely the last board meeting of this school year in June, we'll be presenting that to you. So just wanted you to know that that's to come. And that is the end of the superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you. Next, we need an approval for the consent agenda, and just as a gentle reminder, it also includes the addendum to the personnel report.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Braden.
Aye.
Nash.
Aye.
LaCroy.
Aye.
Albert.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Mack.
Aye.
And Weedman.
Aye. Next, we are up to action items. The first action item, I need a motion to approve the purchase of the district-wide radio, district-wide communication radios that were talked about earlier in the presentation and last meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Does anybody have any questions? No? Okay.
You know what, I have one, just off the cuff, so if the answer isn't top of mind, it's fine, I can talk about it later. But I'm wondering what happens to the old radios when they're disposed of. Do you happen to have that at the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, I do not know what they do, but there is a trade-in on them. So they will be taking them and
Great, thank you.
disposing.
Thank you.
Okay.
Weedman.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Mack.
Aye.
Nash.
Aye.
Braden.
Aye.
LaCroy.
Aye.
And Albert.
Aye.
Okay, next is I need a motion to approve the new roof for Frederick School, and the price was $880, not to exceed $882,510.
So moved.
Second.
Anybody have any questions? I know this was all in the strategic plan and the facilities upgrades. Okay.
LaCroy.
Aye.
Braden.
Aye.
Albert.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Mack.
Aye.
Weedman.
Aye.
And Nash.
Aye.
Okay. That's all of our action items. The next one is the continued discussion of the school board meeting calendar for 22-23.
Can I provide some information?
Absolutely.
Okay. We had intended to bring this as an action item to this meeting because we had already looked at them at a prior meeting. However, on the calendar, there's a place to list where the meeting is held. And we had an idea that administration wanted to share with the board and see what the board thought. So as a reminder, in the past, we've had our meetings over at the Grays Lake Middle School Library, a smaller, more comfortable setting. We moved into this setting during the pandemic because being in a large area like this allows the board to be socially distanced and our audience, I don't like that term, but the community members who come to a meeting also to be socially distanced. However, it's the intention in the future to be able to move back into a smaller location, no longer socially distancing. We had intended to go back to the middle school. However, we had another idea. So we are in the process of creating a new room right here at Frederick. The intention for that room is really for staff training. And it is right over here off the library. So we've kind of divided the library. Adam's unbelievable team has put up a wall. The wall looks fantastic. And we're going to be recarpeting it and cleaning it out. We'll be using that for staff training, but we recognized it also would serve nicely as a much smaller, more comfortable board meeting room. And the intention would be to typically have the meetings there, but if there was a meeting that we thought we'd have a much larger group of community members coming, we could always move a meeting out here so that there would be more space. So we just thought that the board might want to have a chance to talk about that. Board, hopefully you all did get a chance to take a look at that space prior to the meeting starting, as we invited you to do.
My only comment is I thought the room looked good. By the time we were, by the time you're done outfitting it with all of the media stuff that needs to go in there and make it a little bit more permanent, it probably would suit us very well to move our board meetings in there. So that's my opinion. I'm good with moving it in there.
I thought it looked good too, and it seems like it would be a lot easier for the technology department to have it already set up all the time instead of having to create this each time we meet.
Yeah, and it feels as, as we continue to still be safe, though, feels like a nice place to be with the community and to be with each other, too. That's not as, hello out there as this, so.
Did anybody have any objections to moving into there? No? Okay. We get a consensus to approve this calendar then?
Oh, so we don't need to bring it back then?
Yeah. Everybody good with the calendar and moving it here? I don't see a need to bring it back again. So,
Perfect.
oh, good.
Does that room have a name yet?
It doesn't yet. We'll work on that.
Look how efficient we got. Okay, next is new business. First item on new business is a contract renewal with Arbor Management Food Services for the fiscal year 22-23.
Thank you. Like everything in COVID, things have got a little bit more difficult. So contract renewals used to be a little bit more simple, and we could just look at the numbers, but this is a more detailed memo for you, so I'm going to break it down into 3 components. So for your reading pleasure, the first one is that the contract was extended into year 6 as per an emergency waiver. So ISB allowed school districts to extend into year 6 of a 5-year contract because they recognize the bidding difficulties in changing a food service provider during the pandemic. So the district took advantage of that in November, and we're now entering a 6th year of a contract. So that's why. Second thing, ISB has allowed, as per an order, a greater flexibility for food service companies to request greater than 3%. As you might recall from the previous 5-year contract renewals, the contract was limited to 3%. With CPI, the Consumer Price Index, food service away from home at 6.5%, ISB has stated that they recognize the difficulties that a lot of the companies have in being able to provide quality food for 3%. So they're allowing them to request up to 6.5. Arbor has responded by requesting 6%. So that's what has been presented to you this evening. And then the third thing is that the state and both the federal government is intending for, to the best of my knowledge today, could change, is intending for food service to return to pre-pandemic operations. So if the federal government decides, to continue the waivers and the state continues, backs them up and says, yep, you can continue, you can change the way you provided food service during the pandemic, I think it's unlikely. And I think they do wish to return to pre-pandemic operations. So that would mean going back to the way we've done business prior to March of 2020, before the pandemic started. So that's the 3 things, the 3 big components of the memo that I presented to you. But the one really for the renewal purpose is that Arbor is requesting 6%. Do I have any questions about that, specifically in their reasoning?
I just have one. What's the difference between pre and post-pandemic? What was the difference in the operation?
Oh, completely going to what we do today and what we did last year. So going back to what it was in terms of the not needing prepackaged food and all the different things in the servings.
Okay.
What's our staffing situation right now with Arbor?
To the best of my knowledge, I believe we're fully staffed.
Oh, that's great.
And that is in large part to the changes that you made last year by offering $14 when we were offering 12 as per the contract and accelerating that to be ahead of the Illinois minimum wage increase, which will take effect this year.
Chris, again, this just popped in my head, so if we want to bring it back for discussion at a different time, that's fine. But I'm looking at the packaging supply expenses are expected to increase 20 to 30% in the memo right above the chart that you gave us. So I'm just curious whether they're improving the packaging, or could you tell us more about that? Maybe not today, but when you have a chance, would that be?
I don't know if they're making any changes to the packaging. I could ask them, but what the cost memo, which is included in your packet, which follows the one that I wrote,
right,
specifically states, and that's written by them. I could validate it if you want as much as I can. They're saying that they expect those price increases just because of what it's costing today and what they're expecting it to be in terms of commodity pricing. So that's their expectation, and they know their own market. So we can either take them at their word, or we can try and obviously validate that as best we can.
No, we can take them at their word. Let me give some background behind my question, is that I toured at Swalco, and they were talking about how much of a burden it is to dispose of styrofoam, specifically from schools and the trays that we use in schools. So that's the background behind my question.
I'll ask them what
I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
No, it's fine.
know-
I'll ask them what their intention is next year as they return to pre-pandemic operation.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
That's really interesting, Christy, because that seems to be the biggest, styrofoam has increased 15 to 200%, the price. So it might even be driving that overall average price increase. That's really interesting.
Yeah, and I wonder, I know we've talked before about improving the nutrition. Maybe we could improve somehow the impact on the environment and what goes into the landfills. So if that's a possibility, it'd be interesting to know.
I know here in the document, it references supply chain shortages too, so I don't know if that's accounting for that, some of that too.
I believe so. I believe that's a big part of it.
And while this is the contract, and this is likely like a future agenda topic, but I think as we try to be more sustainable as a district, and we talk about like waste management with the food, I think there's an opportunity for us to look at balancing waste management against potential food insecurity in our schools. So rather than, I know there's some things that are perishable. I think to the best of our ability, they do try to maybe donate things to the pantry where possible, but then there's other things that are perishable, right? And if we have children that are still hungry, maybe we have an opportunity to eliminate some waste that way.
Anybody else have any other questions?
Pointing at me. So Arbor is based in Itasca, right? I believe.
Yeah,
I
their
saw that.
headquarters are in Itasca.
Okay.
DuPage.
Do you know, and this may be something you can answer at a later time, have they done any coordination with the Lake County food system? I just am thinking about wanting to support our local food system as much as possible if we can, so that our dollars are staying within our local economy, at least in our county.
So just as you say that, there's just been a bill that's passed but has not been signed by the governor, which will make changes to the bidding requirements, meaning that we won't have to go with the lowest bidder. And exactly, thank you. Which is a big deal, because we always have to, it's a race to the bottom. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that they're looking at, which has not been signed, hopefully will be the ability to ask those vendors to buy local.
Great.
So that when that gets signed, that will obviously be something that in our bid packet that we put out in November, because we're in the 6th year, remember we have to go out to bid. We obviously want to write that in those specifications and make sure that we capture that. So any new vendor that comes forward, Arbor will obviously be bidding because they're in our incumbent service, that we actually have that as part of the contract, and that we can actually ask them to source locally and do those things. So really good question.
Okay. Thank you. Next is a discussion of the security cameras at Grays Lake Middle School.
Good evening again, and for the next little bit. As we alluded to during the Safety and Security Committee update and through some questioning there, I'm excited to share some updates about security camera upgrades, specifically at GMS this evening. We remember that everything we do focuses on our mission of empowering learners, creating equity, and cultivating community. I want to start by saying that everything that I'm presenting this evening is part of an ongoing collaborative effort by a whole bunch of people, from our building administrators, Adam and the O&M department, the technology department, as well as the entire safety and security team. So in this work, although I'm standing here this evening, is certainly, as I mentioned, ongoing and very collaborative. We are going to work on getting a clicker that I can work next time. There may be a whole presentation about that next time. Let's slow down. Purpose of security cameras. I wanted to take a moment and just kind of review the purpose of cameras. And so some of those I've broken down to just 4 quick bullet points, but prevention, identification, monitoring, I just say exterior of buildings, but are the interior of our buildings as well. And then deterring inappropriate behavior. We know that security cameras in our communities do those things for us, and research shows those things as well. Peter, will you hit spacebar for me? So, and then it went twice. Status of the current systems. I'm excited or want to share the status of our current systems across our district. We have separate systems, security camera systems across all of our buildings right now. They function improperly or inconsistently at best. One member of our tech team holds the knowledge to access some of those systems. So oftentimes if there's an issue, whether it's a burglar alarm or a behavior issue, the administrators are often contacting that one tech team member to help assist accessing that system, because some of them are that complicated to access and review footage. I will share that as Adam mentioned back in the fall, Adam and I walked all of our buildings with our building principals and reviewed the needs of the building from a security camera perspective, and really taking a look at the requests and things that would be most beneficial to our building principals. GMS was determined to have the highest level of need after those conversations and after walking all of those buildings, based on ages of current systems as well as the current needs. So that leads us to continue to focusing on GMS tonight. With the proposal that I'm discussing tonight, Adam, his team, and the technology team met with multiple vendors and received quotes from multiple vendors. We are looking to move forward with the lowest proposal, which was from a company called Forward Edge. They are proposing approximately 38 high-resolution cameras, and that's after mapping and diagramming the building with input from building administrators, as well as based off of our current camera configuration at the building. Those cameras would all have a 30-day recording time frame with motion recording, so we'd have a DVR on site that would be recording. We would also have the ability to securely log into that system on site and or remotely. So we're able to set up that system to control the access of, the next 2 lines kind of go together, but a centrally managed system. So right now I mentioned that all of our camera systems across the district are kind of one-off systems. What we'd be looking at here is a centrally managed system that allows us to have access to it at the district level through secure logins, as well as giving specific individuals at the building level the access that they need. And that access can be granular, as well as can require VPN access to make sure that footage stays safe and secure. And then I can kind of tie in the centrally managed and scalable bullets, because as I'm talking, while we're focusing on GMS with the highest need, we are looking at a system that is scalable across the rest of our buildings across the district to continue to address the needs from a safety and security standpoint across the district. So while we look at this proposal, it is the lowest proposal for GMS, but we are also taking that into account as we look to scale. And the systems will then then continue, as we add on additional buildings, will continue to be able to be centrally managed, with that, the specific user abilities being controlled just by a couple of directors, Director of O&M and Technology. At this point, we would be hoping for installation in August or September of 2022. That's, of course, based on availability of installers as well as equipment. We'll talk about the investment of this GMS-specific project. While we anticipate that the equipment itself will last us well beyond 5 years, it is also a non-proprietary system, so it will allow us to add on or continue to maintain and build without any hassle going forward 5 years and beyond. It is also a robust yet economical solution, as I mentioned, and discussed kind of the scalable aspects of this particular system. We're looking at it with the bigger picture in mind. And we would be planning to purchase this with funds from the 22-23 school year budget, which I know that we haven't fully discussed the budget yet, but Mr. Wildman is working hard on that budget, and this project is included in that next budget. The plan right now, not the plan, but the proposal is still being finalized and tweaked, but we plan not to exceed $90,000 on the GMS project. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions about security cameras.
So 127 has the ability, and I'm not recommending this, I'm just wondering if this has that ability or not, to have remote access for the police department in the event of, heaven forbid, an active shooter or something that's going on where they need to access real-time cameras while they're outside, so they get an idea what's going on the inside. Does this have a feature of that, or is that something that is beneficial for us?
It does have that ability. We will certainly still have some internal discussions on kind of the specifications of that. While the system has that ability, we get to control if that is an always on ability, or if we turn that on and we're able to flip that switch at a moment's notice and give them live camera feeds in the moment, or easily share footage after the fact and directly through the new system, where right now, as you can imagine, with our aged technology, that's a lot harder to even go back and share older footage from a couple of days ago. That is a process. But with the new system, we do have those abilities.
Okay, thank you.
The earlier slide mentioned the 30-day recording time. Does that also include, is that archivable then, or does it go away after 30 days, or how does that, like if there's something that needs to be accessed beyond that 30-day window in an event of some type of issue, is that something that the system offers?
So it lives in the 30-day time frame was kind of recommended and an internal discussion. That all of that footage lives on a server that will be housed in district. So if we can expand that 30-day time frame to be 45 or 60 days, it just requires a larger server and, of course, more investment on our part. So we kind of focused in on that 30-day time frame as based on conversations with the vendors and their recommendations as well.
But I think, to your point, I think what you're able to do is, if you had an incident, you were able to record or save that incident in perpetually, separately than the 30 days.
Yes, yeah, we'll certainly be able to download and save any specific footage that we need.
Hello.
Hello.
2 questions. One is a clarifying question. With regards to the policy that this falls under, I know it said purchase and contracts, but would this also fall under board policy for safety?
Yes.
As well?
Yes, it would.
All right. And then the second question that I had was around, I don't know if the decision was in part of there's older technology there in conjunction with some underlying behavioral issues or things of that nature. If the latter is a part of the conversation, I was wondering if you or the team had the ability to like strategically place the cameras in like those high traffic areas or problem areas to further mitigate issues.
Yes, and a lot of conversation this evening about our dean at GMS, and these improvements will certainly help her do some of the smaller investigative work that we've talked about. And she has been a part of some of the conversations that we've had already, and before that final installation, we will be doing another final walkthrough with the vendor, and she will be walking the building with us and just continuing to provide that input and making sure that our camera placements are hitting the areas that are the high traffic or high volume areas.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, I do want to add real fast to that question. We did do an initial walk with a security specialist with the cameras, and we made sure that we hit every single point within the school, trying not to miss anything. Knock on wood, once it goes live, that is the case. Along with that, we also are adding cameras outside. So from what we are at right now to where we're going, much more robust system.
Christy, I want to make sure your questions were answered. Okay. All right. Thank you. I
Thank
assume
you.
this next one is you too?
The next one is
Okay.
me also.
I figured that's why you weren't moving.
That's, I'm not going anywhere for a little bit.
So the next is a discussion on the new phone system.
All right, we will talk about a new phone system proposal for the entire district. And again, remember that everything that we do focuses on our mission of empowering learners, creating equity, and cultivating community. I'll start by providing a little background about our current phone system. We are currently using what's known as a digital phone system. So we're not quite to voice over IP, but also not an analog system. This system is at the end of its useful life. About 5 years ago, the district invested in the current phone system and made some upgrades at that time to help prolong the life of that system, as well as add additional phone lines and phone handsets across the district. Currently, we also have an inequity amongst our buildings and classrooms across the district. So while 5 years ago we added some, we do not currently have a phone in every classroom or office space across our district. So that inequity exists. And then the next bullet point there, no additional phones can be added to our current system. So while it's at the end of its useful life, it is also at capacity for the system and for what we might want to do moving forward. So as we started talking about new phone systems in the district and talking to vendors, we had some considerations that we were focusing on, and again, there we go. We had discussions with multiple vendors, which included our current phone vendor of 5+ years. And we focused on the following things: a transition to voice over IP protocol. So a new VoIP system is new to us, but certainly not new to the industry, which would include a pretty important feature, which is the E911 capabilities, which means that if 911 is called from any of our new phones with this system, the dispatch center automatically receives a location in the building of where 911 was called from. So, for example, if it was here in this building, it would show up with a room number and a section of the building that dialed 911. The phone system then also gives an alert to the front office or to any other phones that we program to alert that says, hey, 911 was just called from this phone. And we're able to use those E911 capabilities and functions to really, again, feel like the focus of the night is safety and security, but to help improve safety and security across the district. An additional consideration was installing a phone in every classroom to help meet the inequity that I mentioned just a few minutes ago. And then planning for future integrations. We've talked about the new radio system, and intercom systems are also mentioned in the master technology plan as something that needs to be addressed in the coming 5 years. And so this phone system will have the ability to tie into intercom system and future intercom system upgrades as well. So it really, taking a look at all of that, and then one final piece is redundancy. When we talk about moving to voice over IP, one piece that it often comes as a concern is what happens if the power goes out? What happens if the internet goes down? The system that we're looking at has multiple forms of redundancy built in. Some of that is based on our current infrastructure. Some of that is based on infrastructure upgrades that we have planned for this summer. But a lot of that just comes built in with this phone system. So if power goes out or network goes down in a building or in the entire district, we will still have access to phones from each of our schools and each of our locations. So that is certainly an important piece, and all of those considerations have been taken into account as we look at our proposal, which is to move forward with a proposal from our current phone vendor, IP Communications. They are out of the Rockford area. We have the same pricing contract, the government pricing Sourcewell agreement that we used with them 5 years ago. That same agreement gives us a very nice discount on all equipment, which brings the total, I'll talk about investment. I'm getting ahead of myself. Investment on the next slide. But we would again be looking at, in case the summer wasn't busy enough, we would be looking at implementing this new phone system in July of 2022. Again, planning for this to be spent out of next year's budget. As we talk about investment, the initial investment would not exceed $200,000. We've got a few details to finalize with the numbers of handsets and locations, but as we work through that, we would not exceed that number. And then the exciting part is that we'd be consolidating phone bills that we have currently in the district and consolidating those lines also, which would lead to a savings of over $1,000 every month on our phone bills. So while there is that initial upfront investment, over time, we are seeing that savings on the monthly phone bills. So that would be a nice added benefit, as in addition to all of the considerations that I mentioned a few minutes ago. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any phone questions that you may have.
All right, I'll go. $1,000 in monthly savings on our phone bill? What is our monthly phone bill right now?
So with our digital lines, we have a number of incoming lines as well as, or incoming and outgoing lines, as well as some analog lines still for POTS lines, for elevator and gas meters, that kind of thing. We are able to consolidate all of those and move we're still finalizing some of the elevator lines, but by consolidating all of those to one vendor, it's very similar to a couple of years ago when we had multiple copier vendors across the district. When we're able to consolidate all of those into one bill is where we see the savings. So really, and just narrowing that down. I can get back to you with a specific monthly phone bill, but it is a couple $1,000s would be cutting in half.
Is that all to one vendor, or, I mean, are we still paying Illinois Bell somehow? I don't mean to be flip, but
we have two vendors, and I'd probably get them wrong because one of them just changed names. TDS and Peerless. I'm going to look to Leslie. TDS and Peerless are our two phone vendors at this time.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions? Okay. Now I'm going to see if he's going to move from the podium. No, I think he's up again. Next is a discussion of the managed network systems.
And again, in case the summer wasn't busy enough, I will see how many clicks it takes. This one I'm excited to talk about managed network services. And I first started talking about this a little bit in the master technology plan when I presented a couple of months ago. Our mission statement, again, empowering learners, creating equity, cultivating community. So some background. We, as a technology department, continue to focus on improving overall network infrastructure across the district. And as I stated, I talked about that a little bit in our technology plan a couple months ago, wrote about even more of it. But this includes a number of upgrades in the coming months, work planned for this summer as well as some that will carry on through next school year. But I've listed some of that, while this is not a comprehensive list, but finalizing secured SSID for the district, our wireless networks, server upgrades that are due for upgrades, also routing of our internet traffic. And then the last two topics that we just talked about, in the addition of new security cameras, the addition of new phone systems is adding a lot more to our network. So just all of those upgrades help lead and kind of help frame the rest of this conversation that we're going to have about our managed network. I'll take a step back and talk about our internet service providers for just a moment. The district has 2 internet service providers, and we are paying 2 of them as well. They provide us internet traffic in and out of the district at 2 locations, GMS and Park Campus. And that's been the way that the district has routed internet traffic for a number of years now. And it actually helped benefit us quite a bit over during the pandemic, during our hybrid teaching, and helping us route the traffic differently for our hybrid teaching and learning and all of the video streaming that we were doing during that time. The exciting piece here that the technology team has been working on for, honestly, almost a year now, and I feel comfortable at this point saying that it's going to happen this summer, is that the state, the Illinois Department of Innovation and Technology, has committed to providing free internet to all K-12 schools across the state. This is a process. There's certainly, I don't want to call it applications, but it's not an award. It's to all districts, but there's a process to have us apply and make sure that we are getting the services that we need across the district. So we have applied. We've gone through all of that process to make sure that we are getting what we currently have and actually increasing the district's bandwidth. All, again, proposed, or not proposed, will be free. So what that means for us is that we will be continuing with those 2 internet connections, routing the traffic differently and appropriately out of GMS and Park, and saving our Comcast bill, that one I can speak to, is just over $6,000 a month. And so we would be saving over $6,000 a month with an effective in July. Our tentative cutover date right now is July 1st to switch over to the state-provided internet. So with all of those changes, as well as the changes and plans that I talked about on the previous slide, it makes sense that I continue to talk about our current status. And I have it listed there as 2 network administrators. By official title, we have 1 network administrator and 1 assistant network administrator who help manage our network, but also have approximately 1,000 other responsibilities in the tech department and across the district. So all of the things that we're talking about have a high level of programming, routing expertise, the high level network programming that is required to make the cutover to the free internet, to make the routing correct on our new secured networks. There's a lot that goes into that our staff right now could certainly benefit from some additional support and expertise. Which brings us to an opportunity for a managed network partner, which would give us an entire team of experts that are available to us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if something happens on a Sunday at 2 a.m., they will know about it in their office before we even wake up. Depending on what it is, they may have even fixed it by the time we wake up. If something happens 2 p.m. on a Monday afternoon and we're aware of it because we're getting phone calls from the building, we're then on the phone with that team of experts and we're troubleshooting and able to take care of whatever that issue is very quickly. They are also able to help with data, and so as I was just talking about some of the day-to-day network issues, but they're also able to help support all of the bigger projects. So all of the projects that I just talked about are in their scope for our plans and for their proposal for us moving forward. The nice thing about this proposal is that it is not just consulting. It is not just them helping support or guide us. They would actually be able to do the work for us. So if we need a router reprogrammed, we need the switches reprogrammed, they are doing that work for us, taking that stress and that time burden off of our internal staff and putting it in the hands of the entire team of network engineers that are there supporting us. As we talk about investment, and again, you'll see the company Forward Edge. Forward Edge is the company that is our cybersecurity vendor right now, and we've been working very closely with them. We're fully onboarded. We are, in the last couple of weeks, I've been visiting staff meetings to provide some cybersecurity updates to all of our staff and get some other things in place as far as that goes in conjunction with Forward Edge. And so they become a nice natural partner for the managed network piece of it as well. I don't want to say it's quite like the bundle deal from Comcast, but it's close. Since they are learning our network and know our network and our infrastructure so well because of the cybersecurity piece of it, it really helps us with from a financial standpoint as well as from a logistics standpoint by bringing them on as a managed network support for us. You can see there I've got $23,000 per year. We're looking at a 2-year commitment with them to help get us through all of those major projects. And there are some things that we might look at as just this being the ongoing cost of business. This is something that we might need forever. I don't necessarily see that being the case here. I hope that they can get us through the next couple of years with all the upcoming changes and help get us past all of those things to help get our network and our infrastructure in a place that we need it to be, moving to Wi-Fi 6 and all of the other upgrades. And then we, of course, would reevaluate at the end of the 2-year commitment. But switching, and then the final note there is that by switching to the state-provided internet, as we talked about earlier, saving approximately six grand a month, there's some clear cost benefit that would come with their support now and that switch over. And I think, other than questions, I might be done. Do you have any questions about the managed network services?
Not a question, but just thank you. What an incredible amount of work to you and your team.
Thank you.
Yeah, you clearly had a lot of work to get all these projects scoped out and sized up. I think your last slide answered the question I had, which was, so is the state then our ISP, or are they just going to pay our Comcast bill every month?
So that's the exciting thing. There have been, in talking to tech directors across the state and collaborating with them, that was one of the initial concerns. Is the state controlling our internet? They are not. We actually, moving to the Illinois Department of Innovation and Technology Consortium, they're just paying our bills. So they put it out to bid across all of the projects that districts applied for, went out to bid, and on the big names in ISP were able to bid on those projects. The same providers that we have today are the providers that won the bid for our district moving forward. So while there will be a few connection changes or they will need, because we're upping bandwidth capabilities a little bit, Comcast will have to be on site a little bit to upgrade that equipment. Otherwise, nothing is really going to change for us. The state will help manage even any service calls and set up with the switchover, and that's the one thing that the state has said, that hey, we become the middleman and help interact with the vendor and take care of all the bill payment also.
Okay, so no additional concerns about connectivity or speeds over and above what we experience just from random acts of internet gremlins?
Correct. Yes. Yeah. Yes, because it's exactly what we're utilizing today.
Any other questions? Okay, let's see. What's the next topic you're going to talk about? Oh, nothing. Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Wow.
He's got a fan group back there. Oh, now he's all red. Okay, so that is all of our new business. Then we have topics for future agenda items.
Yeah. Next board meeting, we have the Student Environmental Council coming to speak. We're really excited about that. We will have an update on our EL programming that Dr. Diaz will present to us. We have information from the literacy, about the literacy resource, and you're going to have a few people coming to present, right? Then for new business, the situational awareness training recommendation that you heard our Safety and Security Committee talk about tonight. Mr. Wildman will provide a fiscal year 23 preliminary budget for you. And then we have action items that are related to the new business that we had tonight. In June 1st, we have a presentation from Heather Lorenzo about Care Solace that she's been talking about. We're planning on the literacy resource approval, and maybe we'll have a policy committee meeting. We don't know yet because we still don't have the new policies from press, so we'll see if we have those by then. And then, as mentioned earlier, June 15th, we'll bring you a strategic plan update. That's all I have.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
As part of just the offshoot conversation to the Arbor agreement, can we just plan to address the food waste management, like just to relook at how the food is, let me start over. Look at how much food that we tend to have left over from building to building and explore ways that we can mitigate waste by potentially offering more food to students that may have food insecurity issues.
So first of all, I'm wondering, are we going to have any information regarding that at our next meeting from our students?
You're going to hear about GMS.
Okay, so that'll be a start. Right.
But you'll hear about GMS, You'll hear about GMS, both high schools and the library.
So we'll get information about the amount of food waste.
Yes.
And then I think your request, Tamika, is that following that, maybe some discussion about providing additional food to students who are looking for it. Is that correct?
How we can reallocate that food as opposed to it going to waste.
Okay, so let's see what this presentation brings us, and if it leads directly to that conversation. If it doesn't, we can bring it back another time.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Great. Anything else?
Okay. Sorry. Go ahead, Jessica.
Kind of tagging on that somewhat, because I'm familiar with some of what the Student Environmental Council will say. They're going to be talking about buildings, but all this rain has gotten me thinking about outside of our buildings and wanting to think about maybe this summer, are we flood ready? Are our buildings safe from flooding? And have we ever evaluated the ecosystems outside of our buildings and what they do for us? I was reminded that Principal Detweiler does a fishing club after school, and I love that. So I just want us to think about that over the summer. Maybe there's something we can do with that.
I just want to state back to what I think you're asking. You asked if our buildings are flood ready, or ready for if there's a flood, right? And I'm sorry, what's the second part of that?
Are we safe from extreme weather events? Luckily, the rain has been pretty steady and slow. And then the other question is sort of about evaluating what we have around us. And by ecosystem services, I mean, so ecosystems provide different things for us, like flood mitigation, air purification, that sort of thing. And I just want us aware of what we have around us. Just like what Leslie mentioned earlier, we do have a lot of unique features around our schools and in our county that we can really highlight.
So part of our strategic plan has us in the next, I believe it's 2 years, I don't have it in front of me right now, evaluating our outdoor environments connected to our schools, and so I think that will be folded into what you're talking about. But I don't know, board, are you requesting that Adam share information regarding to what extent the buildings are ready to withstand extreme weather? And if so, Adam, do you know how you would answer that question? Do you know what you would be bringing forth?
To be continued?
Okay, all right. Okay, so we're going to have to think a little bit about how to address that question, and I guess, Board, I'm going to ask you to think about what you're looking for regarding that topic. Okay? Okay.
Dr. Glickman, I apologize. One last thing, just to call our attention to an upcoming date, June 22nd, happens to be my birthday. If our board wants to submit a resolution or an amendment as part of the 2022 resolution process. So I know we hadn't done that last year, but if there's anything that we think we want to either submit as new or amend, we have until June 22nd, my birthday, to submit.
So do you want an agenda item at the June 1st meeting so that if anybody has something that they wanted to submit, it could be discussed at that time?
That
Is
sounds
that
like a
good?
plan.
Or do you want it June 1st, or do you want it at the next board meeting?
June 1st, I think that gives the board enough time to
Okay.
think it through and read prior resolutions.
And I would welcome input on that from district staff as well. So if there's something, within the current resolutions or something you've always wanted to bring to the state's attention or, get some advocacy for legislatively, it doesn't necessarily just have to come from the board either.
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
I had a thought too. You said we have a policy meeting at before the next board meeting. Is that correct?
That was a
No, maybe we'll have one for June 1st, and it's only if the policies show up.
Okay.
So
I'm wondering if
new policies.
I'm actually asking the rest of the board, are we at all interested in the policy implications, taking a look at our current policies regarding security cameras, the phones? We had an agreement to start talking policy, so I'm remembering that and bringing it up, given that we're having cameras put in. Are there policies that we should be aware of, things we should be looking at? And is the next meeting the time to do that, or do we want to wait for June 1st or later?
So I'm wondering if this is the way to talk about this. When we provide a memo, we connect to the memo the policies that the memo is related to. So then I think the question is there something about the policy that the board wants to talk about? So what I'm thinking is that when you get those memos, take a look at the policy, and if there's something that you want to make sure we talk about, we can talk about it as a part of that agenda item, and then it'll just be a natural discussion as part of the agenda item. Does that make sense?
No, that's a great idea. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
And then my other thought was, are there any legal concerns with new security cameras that we should be aware of? Is there anything legally that we should anticipate in terms of student privacy or staff privacy?
No, these are new security cameras. It's not like we are having security cameras for the first time. So these are just updated, improved, fully functional security cameras. Yeah.
And I'm sure there's limited spots where they can go to. There are spots that are limited as where they can be put. It's not like they're going to be put in the bathroom looking at the stall.
Correct.
So there's restrictions on where they can go on top of that. By law, I should say. So. You're going to say?
I don't want to speak out of turn, but
Too late.
Please do.
you may be speaking on behalf of student rights and confidentiality as well with student records, and it would fall under the student records request, and we would treat those individually based on the scenario and what type of request comes up.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, we're back up to our second public agenda item. Nobody? Okay. And now I want to know who had 827, since you guys seem to take a bet on this every week. Who had 827? I see somebody smirking over there. All right. So, okay, we are going to go into closed session tonight. But before we do that, I'll remind everybody, if you want to stay for some cake, we have cake to celebrate our rebranding. But we'll take a vote to go into closed session, and we'll go in maybe about 10, 15 minutes. That works for everybody?
Will there be any activities after?
Sorry.
Any voting
There will
afterwards?
be no actions from the board after the
Okay.
closed session, so, after the cake and ice cream or cake that is there, you are free to leave, as we won't be taking any actions afterwards.
And maybe before we dig into the cake, we can take a quick picture with T-shirts and cake and such. Yes? Sure. Excellent. Thank you.
Can I have a motion to go into closed session? That's what Sue is waiting for.
I'll make the motion.
LaCroy,
Aye. Aye.
Nash,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Mack,
Aye.
Albert,
Aye.
Weedman,
Aye?
Braden.
Aye.
Mm-hmm.